I had no idea that getting rid of stuff would teach me all of this. I just thought it would be nice to be able to open a closet and not have things fall on me.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne?
Hey everyone, it's Natalie. Welcome to my channel for today's video, which I'm really excited about. I am going to be reflecting back over the last year and sharing with you some thoughts and my heart on what has changed in my life, the things that I learned while I went through this huge extreme decluttering and reorganization journey toward a more minimal lifestyle. If you're new here and you just randomly clicked on this video and you've never seen me before, then first of all, I just want to say welcome. You might not know that I have an entire series on this channel that I've done over the last 12 months where I have shared extreme declutters and reorganizations of every single nook and cranny of my home. And in the end, my husband and I have been able to get rid of over 80% of our family's stuff, and myself and as a whole, our family has adopted this minimal lifestyle. We've adopted minimalism for our family. I'm just so grateful for where I'm at today and what I've learned over this last year. And I just want to say I am not perfect. Even though I have learned a ton and I have a lot that I want to share with you, I do not think that somehow I am this glowing example of how you should be in your life. Everyone's life is different, and I continue to make mistakes and I continue to try to learn. And in today's video, I'm just going to share with you what I've learned. Some things that were surprising to me that I learned along the way during all of this decluttering and this minimalism that we've adopted. And I hope this video is an encouragement to you. If you are looking to work toward a more minimal lifestyle, if you've been thinking about it, or if you're already in the trenches of doing the decluttering and learning more about minimalism. If you are new here, I would love it so much if you would subscribe and turn the bell button on so you don't miss videos from me. I make motherhood and minimalism videos every single week on Mondays. I also have bonus videos that come out from time to time, so I'd love it if you would come back for more. And for those of you who have been here for my Messy to Minimal series or other minimalism and decluttering videos that I've done, then drop this emoji in the comments so that I can say hello to you. Honestly, having you guys with me throughout this last year has been an incredible experience. The sense of community that I have been able to have by sharing this and documenting this on YouTube has been priceless. So thank you so much for all of the support and the encouragement and being with me along the way. Now let's talk about the things that I learned during this year of extreme decluttering and family minimalism. The first one is that I don't miss a thing. I promise you guys, I'm not exaggerating one little bit. There is nothing that I have decluttered out of my house. The 80% of our stuff, there is not a single thing that I have said, oh, I wish I didn't declutter that, or oh, I miss that. Nothing, not once has that ever happened. And that was really surprising to me. January 2020, I just started off. And if you had told me that I, in the end, would have gotten rid of 80% of our family's stuff and wouldn't miss a thing, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. One of my biggest hesitations when starting out on this journey was being afraid that I would miss some of these items and that I would declutter too much, or I would end up costing myself more in the end because I'd realized that I got rid of something that I truly needed or wanted or loved and then have to go buy it again. In fact, working toward a more minimal lifestyle has actually given me the freedom to not be held captive to FOMO. The fear of missing out was so big for me before I really got through the stuff in my home. Missing out on sales, missing out on the next best makeup product, missing out on the next trend for clothing. I was afraid that I would miss something, and that if I wasn't participating or if I wasn't purchasing things that were trendy or new, that somehow my life would be lacking. And it was the absolute opposite. So in the process of getting rid of 80% of our family stuff, there hasn't been a single thing that I've regretted getting rid of. There hasn't been a single thing that I've missed once it's left my home. Something else that I learned this year that quickly became obvious to me was that minimalism looks different for everyone. In my first video that I made in my Messy to Minimal series, in the intro, I gave this little disclaimer because I just felt so compelled to say, minimalism looks different for everyone. My version of minimalism might be different than your version of minimalism, but minimalism to us basically means keeping only the things that serve us, that have an actual purpose and a function, and aren't like doubles or triples of something. I felt compelled to say that because it was quickly becoming obvious to me that if you didn't fit in with these specific things, this arbitrary list of what minimalists do, how they look, how they act, what they buy, how many items they have in their house, then you can't call yourself a minimalist. And I think that's too bad. I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater when you try to pigeonhole people into a specific definition. And honestly, the fact is, minimalism doesn't actually have a definition. Minimalism is a mindset. Minimalism is a lifestyle. Minimalism is a goal. I think that some people definitely mean well. And I will talk about this more a little bit later with something else that I learned. But I feel like on YouTube, where you would see extreme minimalists with no furniture, one fork, one spoon, one knife, and nothing plastic in their house at all. People started to see that as the definition of minimalism. And anyone who had anything more or different, or plastic toys for their children, was the antithesis of that. And then you'd go on Pinterest and you'd see all these Pinterest perfect organizations in people's pantries and linen closets. And I feel like this pressure to conform to what other people think minimalism is a turnoff for a lot of people from trying out minimalism for themselves. Pinterest perfect isn't always perfect for you and for your lifestyle and where you're at in your life. Someone else's version of minimalism might not fit in with how your life works, depending on where you live and how many kids you have. And I mean, I was literally told that I can't call myself a minimalist because I have more than 2 kids. Like, who came up with that rule? Or I can't call myself a minimalist because I have more than 3 mugs for coffee in my cabinet. For us, just like that first disclaimer that I gave, even though back then my threshold for clutter was way less than it is now, and my home was filled with 80% more stuff than I have right now, my definition of minimalism has been the same because it's true for me. It's very individual. And so I just want that to be an encouragement to you. If you're thinking about setting out on a minimalism journey or doing a lot of decluttering or purging through your house, that you don't have to live by someone else's arbitrary definition of minimalism in order to adopt a minimalist mindset and lifestyle and work toward simplifying your home and having less. Okay, here's a big one that I learned. This might be one of the biggest lessons, honestly, and that is decluttering your house is not a one and done deal. Now, you might feel discouraged to hear that. Hold on. If you had told me a year ago that in order to get my home to a place where I felt like I had arrived, let's say, when it comes to decluttering or minimalism, that it would take some rooms a second, third, fourth, fifth pass, I would have probably just been too scared to start, too overwhelmed by that idea to start. And I had never actually heard someone say that before. In all of the minimalism videos that I've watched, or all of the decluttering videos, because there's a ton here on YouTube, in all of the videos that I watched, I never once heard someone say, it takes constant maintenance, you have to peel back the layers, It's going to be, several passes through before you finally feel like you're at that place where it's where you need it to be. So I was not prepared for how much I would have to go back into these spaces. So the Messy to Minimal series was started so that I would probably make 8 videos, the 8 different spaces in my home, including my garage and my van. We'd go through those spaces, and in the end, I'd say, this is how much I got rid of, and look at how great these spaces look now. The before and afters would be so satisfying, and I'd button it up, and okay, there, Messy to Minimal series is done, on to the next thing. But as I was going, I would realize that these spaces in my house needed another pass. And as I worked through it, my threshold for clutter and like the way I would visually see things would evolve and change. And my brain would just hold myself to a different standard. And as I went, I wanted to do more. I was eager to see how much more I could cut out of my life, because I caught that bug in the beginning with the first pass through the house. I realized how much of a difference it made in our home for everyday life, for tidying up, for my mental health and my mood. And I thought, well, if getting rid of 50% of my stuff has helped this much, how much more stuff do I have around here that I actually don't need and don't use? How many toys in my kids' room are not being utilized? How many pieces of makeup do I have in my collection that I simply don't use or need? And it's taking up not just physical space, but also mental space. And so I continued. And I remember feeling a little sheepish about it because I didn't know how a second pass would be received by the people viewing my videos and along for the journey. And so my first Messy to Minimal redo episode that I did, I was really nervous publishing it because I thought that some people would be really critical about the fact that I still had stuff to get rid of, and I just felt very self-conscious and insecure about that. And in fact, the opposite happened. I received so many comments saying, thank you so much for showing that it's not just a one and done deal. Thank you so much for being real about the fact that decluttering and working toward a more minimal lifestyle is a process that takes effort that's repeated, not just doing it once and then somehow expecting your home to function perfectly and to never get cluttered again. Let's face it, even the most modest households or lifestyles still has constant influx of things, especially if you have young children who outgrow toys, outgrow clothing, get through school books, wreck things. It happens. And then when it comes to just everyday life of needing new shoes and needing food in your pantry and groceries every week, there's stuff entering our homes. And if we're not actively bringing things out to compensate and kind of doing like the one in, one out sort of thing, we're going to get piled up again. And so I kind of do a one in, two out thing now because I just have this itch to continue to simplify my home. And if you would have told me that in the beginning, that I would just keep working at it and keep continuing, I would have been overwhelmed by that idea. And I wouldn't realize that I was overwhelmed by that idea because just in my life in, early 2020, Natalie was overwhelmed by stuff, and I was weighed down by the number of items in my house and the inventory in my house that I had to take care of every single day. So like I said, I want that to be an encouragement to you. I want you to know that you're not alone. I don't want the idea that it takes constant maintenance for you to feel overwhelmed. I don't want you to do what I probably would have done and just kind of not moved and not started and not done anything. Because here's the next thing that I learned that I was really surprised to learn, and this goes hand in hand with that other lesson that I learned, and that is it gets easier. I did not expect that as I would go through my house, it would become easier, because every other decluttering experience that I had, whether it was cleaning out my closet, I've made videos about that before, or tidying up my kids' rooms, or going through their toys, or decluttering my kitchen, whatever space it was, I didn't realize that once you got going and then stuck with it and came back to do like little maintenance declutters along the way, that it would continue to get easier and that I would feel this sense of inspiration and motivation to just keep it going. In the past, I would do these declutters and expect them to just be done. Like I said earlier, like a one and done thing. And then I wouldn't touch the space and I wouldn't maintain the space. And months later, it would be an absolute disaster again, and I would have acquired way too much stuff and would have held on to too many things. And so the fact that it has gotten easier for me encourages me so much, and I hope it encourages you too, because not only has the decluttering gotten easier, but it's also made daily tasks like doing dishes and doing laundry easier as well. So my life takes up less time. The routine of doing the daily tidying and cooking and playing with my kids, like every little thing in my life has improved so much because I have less stuff to take care of. And that has further inspired me to maintain this sort of lifestyle. That's why in these videos I have said a more minimal lifestyle. It's not just a more minimal space. It's a way of thinking, it's a mindset, and it's something that needs to be learned and trained. And this is another thing that I learned along the way, something that I was surprised to find out, is that decluttering isn't just an act. It's not just something that you do. It's actually a skill. Now, some people might be more inclined toward decluttering and they kind of have a talent for it, just like any other skill, athletic or music or whatever. But for some people, like me, it's something that needs to be practiced and honed and exercised, kind of like a muscle. And I've said this before in some of my videos, like I'm just growing these decluttering muscles. I'm growing my ability to make decisions, to choose which things to keep and which things to part with. And as I watch through the first several videos in this series, I'm seeing my process and I'm seeing the things that I'm touching and grabbing and putting here and choosing for the donation bin versus choosing to keep. And I'm reminded of how I've developed my decluttering muscles and how my decision-making skills and how fast I can make those decisions has improved so much. Decluttering does take skill and it takes practice. So if you are in the early stages of your decluttering journey and you're feeling discouraged by how long it takes you to make these decisions and how much you agonize over these decisions, I just want to give you some encouragement that it does get easier, especially when you stick with it, just like any other skill. You exercise those muscles regularly, they're going to grow and strengthen. Something else that I was surprised to learn, and I think it's one of those lessons that you just kind of have to go through in order to really have it hit home and like really resonate in your personal life. But it's that minimalism, like I said before, it's more than just a number, and it affects more than just your material stuff in your house. Minimalism has reached its fingers into more than just the inventory in my house, but also my mindset, my lifestyle. Everything from how I go about purchasing groceries to what I choose to wear for the day and how I wear my makeup and who I follow on social media. Minimalism and the mindset of it versus just the number of items in my home has affected so much of my life for the better. And another thing that I've learned with minimalism is that it isn't prison. It isn't restrictive. And this is something that I was afraid of, kind of like I was afraid that I would miss things that I decluttered out of my house. I was also afraid that I would be somehow restricted. I am the sort of person who does not want to be boxed in. I do not want to be told what to do. And I was afraid that minimalism would be just that in my life. Like this drill sergeant telling me that I could only keep so many things and that I would be boxed in by this definition of who I was supposed to be, and that it would be restrictive and that I wouldn't be allowed to do things. And that is so not true. In fact, the opposite is true. I have never had so much freedom in my life as I've experienced in this last year of adopting minimalism. And that freedom has only continued to grow the more stuff that I got rid of and the better systems that I put in place in my home because of having less stuff and because of adopting a more minimal mindset. And more than just that, I feel free to be fully who I am. And this is another thing that I've learned. I have learned so much about self-confidence, about being true to myself. I've learned so much about tuning out other people's opinions about me. And this journey toward minimalism has really helped with that. I mean, there's nothing like showing the dirtiest and most embarrassing and crazy cluttered nooks and crannies of my home to tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people, to like just open myself up in that way. It really toughened me up, and I'm grateful for that. A lot of YouTubers, they become jaded because of the barrage of negative comments and feedback and stuff. And I will say, like, 95% of my comments are so positive and supportive, and I'm so grateful for that. But there have been plenty of negative comments along the way that have only helped solidify my self-esteem and have only helped make me feel like, you know what? I'm on the right track. I am doing the right thing. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing it for trolls on the internet. And if they want to pick things apart, then that is their issue. My issue is maintaining my household and doing what makes us happy and what makes our house run right. And so I've just learned to just let go of other people's opinions of me. And that is not just the people on the internet, but people close to me as well. I have learned to get along with people in my personal life on a deeper level and not just that superficial, non-confrontational feeling that I have, but to be fully who I am and unapologetic about who I am. Because I've just gained so much self-confidence by getting my home and my stuff and my priorities under control. When Natalie was seeking after material possessions or trends or had this huge fear of missing out, or the FOMO, Natalie was in prison. Natalie wasn't fully able to express herself, be who she is, and have confidence in her home and the life that she has made. I actually want to make a video kind of giving you the full scope of my minimalism journey and what my life before minimalism looked like, going all the way back to my childhood. That's kind of another storyline for another time, for another video. But suffice it to say, I've always been kind of a messy person. My bedroom or my car as a teenager or my desk at school, it was always really messy and cluttered. I'm also a very creative person, so messiness and creativity sometimes go hand in hand, but it's a very limiting belief to just label myself as a messy person, when I had so much potential to have this freedom and this sense of self-worth in my life. And as a Christian, I ultimately find my freedom and my self-worth and my joy in my relationship with Jesus. That is absolutely number one. Scripture says that obtaining material gains and hoarding things and storing up treasures on earth basically is a useless and completely the opposite of a spiritual pursuit. The Bible says to store up treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy. And I can't tell you the number of things that I pulled out from closets and drawers and bins that had grown moldy or rusty or had moths in them. That sounds gross. It happens to everyone, so it is what it is. But I've just been reminded so much over this last year what is important to me. Another scripture says, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also. So if you're putting stock into the material items, or if you are giving into the FOMO, then you are treasuring things that ultimately do not matter. They're all going to be gone one day, and it will not matter at all. And I actually think that that's one of the reasons why I haven't regretted decluttering a single thing, is because as I've gone on, these things don't matter to me. What does matter to me is time with my family. What does matter to me is being comfortable in my home. And when it's cluttered and messy, I'm not comfortable. What matters to me is being able to have a day's work and then be able to walk out into my house from my office, and if it's a mess, be able to clean it up in 5 minutes. What matters to me is my relationship with my husband and my relationship with my family, my extended family, with my friends, and most importantly, with my God. And I feel like 2019 Natalie and earlier had just a ton of stuff piled on her. And it was basically blocking my vision to all of these other things in my life that were more important. So, suffice it to say, I have learned a lot of just amazing foundational lessons over this last year. I had no idea that getting rid of stuff would teach me all of this. I just thought it would be nice to be able to open a closet and not have things fall on me like in Zaboomafoo. It would be nice for me to be able to go into my pantry and find the ingredient that I need without having to dig through a ton of expired food and stuff that we're not actually eating. What I didn't bargain for is how much decluttering and adopting a minimalist mindset has changed my entire life. There is no aspect of my life that it has not affected. I mean, that's another video that I could make, like ways minimalism has changed my life, or, you know, parts of my life that are most affected by minimalism. I'd love to do that. And I actually have a whole sit-down series planned as we head into the new year to share with you more, and more specifically, topically, about how minimalism has changed my life. I also want to share with you like tips and things that I think could help other people on their journey toward minimalism, because I mean, you've stuck around this video this long. It's a long video. I've been talking for a long time, and I really appreciate you sticking around this long. Leave this emoji if you're still here so that I can thank you in the comments. But it's obvious that I have a lot to say about this. It's obvious that I have a passion for this and that it has changed my life. And I'm so very grateful that I chose to step out and do this. And I am so grateful that you guys were here with me for this journey. The journey isn't over. Like I said, decluttering is always something that's going to be happening in our house if we are living a more minimal lifestyle, if it's something that's important to us. And so I have more decluttering content to share with you in the new year, as well as a sit-down series to kind of go hand in hand with that content, answering your questions, giving you tips, and sharing more about my heart for living a minimal lifestyle. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thanks again for sticking around. I know it was a long one, but it feels so good to be able to express these things and to share my heart with you and to hopefully offer you some encouragement. I mean, I don't think that I'm all that, and one of the reasons making minimalism content has felt so daunting as in the past is because sometimes minimalists will kind of give off the impression that they think that they've got it all together. I've gotten rid of 80% of my stuff, and you guys, I do not have it all together. But I feel so much better about my life, so I just want to share the reality of it, the real moments, what minimalism looks like as a mom, and also be there in the trenches with you guys and make mistakes along the way and learn from those mistakes and learn together. So if you haven't done so already, I would love it so much if you would turn your notification bell on if you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed yet and you enjoyed this video, I would love it so much if you would subscribe so that you can come back for more content like this. I make minimalism and motherhood content. that's crazy to me, but it is my passion, and I love the direction that my channel has taken in this last year. I love the feedback that I've gotten from you guys and the friendship and the camaraderie. Thank you for being the most amazing community for me in 2020. I am looking forward to 2021, and I'm looking forward to having you guys along with me for this next year of my life. So, well, I hope you all are having a wonderful day wherever you are. Thanks so much for spending a part of your day here with me on my channel. I do not take that for granted. I am so grateful for each and every one of you, and I'm wishing you a very happy new year. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and I'll catch you later.